Hello everyone, Hare Krishna. Welcome to another series of our youth presentations. So today we're going to run it slightly differently, as you might have already noticed that we've got only 3 chapters being summarized today, hopefully to keep everyone's attention a little bit more, but focus in a little bit more on the chapters. And the plan is that we'll have each presentation run consecutively, and then at the end we'll open it up to any questions about all 3 presentations. So before we begin, I'll seek the blessings of everybody here. Thank you so much for joining. And if we just do the invocation prayers. So Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Right. Thank you so much, everybody. And
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Riyan.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
So we'll just hand over. You're just in time, Riyan. We're handing over to Guntis, who is going to take a summary of his take on chapter 1. So it's all over to you now, Guntis.
Thank you so much, Sanjana, for creating this group. Thank you, Nabinandan Prabhu, for making this all idea behind sharing the wisdom, eternal wisdom of Bhagavad Gita with others. I really appreciate and acknowledge your service a lot. I just will quickly chant a prayer to myself, if that's all right. It's
Yes.
Maybe 1 minute, and then I'll be ready to start. Okay, so chapter 1 in the Bhagavad Gita is the beginning of everything. In other ways, for us as a practitioners, it's a beginning of eternal life. Eternal life is always there. It's always is happening at this very moment because our soul is eternal. So therefore, there is eternal world. There is like an eternal dimension. There is uh, uh, Krishna's all eternal energies that are always there. So eternal life right now is happening simultaneously with material life. The difference is in ability to see and to perceive one or the other aspect of God, meaning the illusory energy or the spiritual energy. Illusory energy is also has eternal form, but it's manifested and unmanifested, whereas the spiritual energy is always manifested. It's always expanding. So Bhagavad Gita's first chapter is that step which is teaching us, it's showing us that kind of giving that doorway and preparing us for the journey to return back to the eternal life and see Krishna, the beginning of unlimited eternal aspect everywhere. So Arjuna is on the battlefield and he has to fight his cousins, his uncles, his teachers, everyone who he respected and valued, everyone to whom he is attached in one or another form, and it is very, very challenging because we value, because by being in material world we value matter as something eternal. Yes, so we are we are taught in that way. We are growing up and we accept material things as something very significant, whereas the eternal aspect of our true essence, the soul, we don't value because there wasn't so much training. And here Arjuna was asking, okay, dear Krishna, can you kindly bring me in the middle of the two armies? What Krishna did, he brought Arjuna there, and when Arjuna saw all his cousins and brothers and respected teachers who were standing in opposition to fight with him, yes, it was very challenging kind of moment for Arjuna. And it's similar is for us because to actually enter back into the eternal life, we have to become detached from the matter. Okay, so we have to start to look that my mom is actually eternal spirit soul that is connected with Krishna. So is my father, so is my grandfather, so are my friends, so are my teachers, so is everything here in this life. Everything within every vehicle, material vehicle, there is a soul inside. And without this even kind of understanding, we won't be able to progress forward rapidly. It will be very difficult. So Krishna is teaching us through Arjuna that we also have attachments in this world. We also have people to whom we are so attached, and we are afraid that we're going to lose them. We are afraid that they're going to won't be any more there. Yes, or if I will chant my rounds sincerely, like, then what my friends gonna think about me, who I'm this like crazy Hare Krishna, or how they will be seeing me. Yes, so this is maybe my personal position, and everyone will have their own interpretation why to justify attachment. Arjuna had his justification. He was very learned. He was a devotee of Lord, a very close associate of Lord. So his justification was based on spiritual scriptures. So Arjuna was putting forward to us arguments why killing the Bhishma or Drona won't be appropriate. And then he was giving other arguments that's going to create unwanted population, and everything will be ruined. Whatever we was working for, it will be spoiled, so on and so forth. So that was his reasoning with his own duty to stand and fight, or to become self-realized. Because the battle of Kurukshetra actually was about giving us a guidance towards self-realization, so that Gita could be spoken. It wasn't so much about the battle itself as it was about Gita. Gita was the main subject of all battle of Kurukshetra. It wasn't about killing one or other. It was about self-realization. So so that could be able to be established, Krishna made all that arrangement together. Of course, there are so many unlimited other reasons why it was taking place, but one of the predominant reasons why the Gita was spoken is for our benefit, so that we could return back home, back to our eternal loving Father, Sri Krishna Bhagavan, like that. So that was very important teaching that Krishna was showing us, that we also have attachments, yes, and we also will have reasonings and justifications why not to let go of these attachments. And the only way how we can let go of attachments to anything material is by going deeper and realizing our spiritual eternal nature, about which the Gita will be further on going on, yes, where Krishna is starting first explaining to Arjuna about about who we truly are, yes, who is our true essence, is spiritual, and so on and so forth. And then the process is karma yoga, dhyana yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga, etc., bhakti yoga. All that will be further explained in the Gita, the process, how to realize that. But he technically in the beginning, he was already put Arjuna on the path. So this is it. This is your justifications, and they are not valued, because everything is spirit, everything is eternal, everything is coming from me, and because I'm eternally existing, never changing, yes, ever you ever eternally beautiful, sweet, loving, because we know that Krishna has all the qualities of in unlimited quantity of everything. Yes, it's like it's and it's eternal. It's never ending. It's unlimitedly eternal. So these are few qualities of Krishna, but he has unlimitedly eternal qualities. Yes, so no one can count them, and no matter how much we could try to say something about him, it still won't be complete. So that is Krishna. And not, the second aspect, then Krishna in the chapter 1, he was establishing importance of teacher, where Arjuna was ready to give up to his inner weakness, yes, inner challenges that he was facing. He was ready to give up and just to, how you say, uh, to surrender to his weakness, yes, to the weakness of the heart. But then Krishna assisted him as a teacher, as a guru, that actually, like it's not according to your nature. It's not according to your nature to give up into this weakness. You are a warrior. You are a pure devotee, and now I will be here assisting you to guide you through the process. So Krishna was teaching second aspect to Arjuna of importance of spiritual master in our lives. And by spiritual master, we have to understand that a spiritual master is not only a person that is giving us the process or the holy name. Spiritual master is everything, because Krishna is everything. Krishna is everywhere. Everything is created by his energies. Even matter is another form of God's energies. So everything can teach us. Yes, it can be our friend, it can be our parent, it can be person on the street that we see only once and we're never going to see him again. It can be a movie, it can be a sound, yes, it can be a form, it can be a shape. Everything is a teacher. And that is another important aspect that Krishna is teaching to Arjuna, that I am everywhere and I am everything. And if Krishna is everywhere and Krishna is everything, therefore that ability to teach us is in every particle, in every atom. Yes, because he is original guru. So therefore if he is everywhere, therefore everything is our original guru. Okay, so then he manifests through different ways, the way we can perceive, the way our awareness is increased. As more our awareness will be increasing through practicing of spiritual life, chanting the holy names, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, reading Bhagavad Gita, our awareness will be becoming more clear and clear and clear. As more our awareness is clearer, as more we will be able to perceive that ability of Krishna in everything. Therefore, we will be able to learn from everything, like that. And even when we are looking at material energy serving Krishna. It's material energy, or Maya Devi is pure devotee of Krishna. So therefore, if a practitioner has a sincere desire to get out of the material world, Maya is working as a coach, as a trainer. So she will be teaching us how to get out from this world. She will be giving us tests that will be making us more stronger, more fixed in our spiritual life and dedication towards Bhagavan. And then if we have a desire to forget about Krishna and to do our own little drama dance, then she will be assisting us in doing that. Okay, she's serving both ways. To think that the Maya is bad, it's incorrect, because she is pure devotee. So something that is purely devoted to Krishna cannot be bad. It's just the way we will be perceiving that. Okay, so she works both ways. It's like let's put a martial arts teacher. Okay, if I'm going to martial arts teacher to train from him and really master something, then the teacher will be teaching me in one way. Yes, if I will go and challenge martial arts teacher for a fight, and I will try to fight him and win him or something like that, it will be completely different interaction with me. But it is the same martial arts teacher. Okay, so in one case it will be giving me different, like we watch these kung fu movies where these martial art teachers, they are like giving these difficult tasks to their students because they see the potential and they know the desire of the student to become strong, so that student could develop, grow, so similar way material energy or Maya Devi, when we make this commitment to get out of this material world, to return back to spiritual realm, she becomes our trainer, very tough trainer. There won't be like ussy pussy dealings. She will be very strict, but she will be completely fair. At the same time, if we are approaching the same spiritual the same martial arts master, to fight with him, yes, then that master just knocks us out in half seconds. It doesn't matter how strong we are, because Maya is always 16 times stronger than we. Okay, it doesn't matter the capacity. The one person can become like super strong, but Maya is still 16 times stronger. Okay, so that was technical definition of her strength, so that it would be easier for us to understand. So therefore, chapter 1 was about these two aspects. One of the two main aspects is that importance of the spiritual master, and the beginning of what we need to start to work with. And one of the main thing is our attachment to material world, or things that are material. Yes, and the second, importance of spiritual teacher that can assist us to understand that we can associate with that eternal spiritual teacher, yes, who is Krishna, through everything. Okay, thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thanks very much. Some really insightful contributions there. I think definitely just before we move on, I want to pick out on two bits that I think are really handy to have when you're looking at the Bhagavad Gita in general that you picked up on. And number one was that Arjuna is he's a devotee, and so he picks his justifications not to fight from the scriptures. And yet, still Krishna has to raise him from this platform and say, yes, that's all very well, but actually you've got to think about it this way. And I think that's a reminder for us that, however much we might be socialized to think something is good, sometimes it can still be coming with attachment. So when we look at karma later, that's also another really good thing to bear in mind. Yes, do good actions, but good sometimes isn't good enough. You have to go further. You have to get it up to that spiritual platform. And I think you introduced that idea really well. And I think the second idea that you introduced really well was one that we also look at later in divine and demoniac qualities, which is that he was about to surrender to weakness. And Krishna takes that and he supplements it with some goodness by saying, don't surrender to weakness, surrender to me, become a devotee. So it shows how we can transfer some of our weaknesses and make them into strengths as well. I hope, that's my comments for that. And we'll have questions at the end. But I quickly wanted to move on to Pritamba, who I believe is doing chapter 2, unless anyone has any more comments to make before we move on.
I liked Guntis's analysis. Very, very nice, in-depth, and a good perspective as well. I have a couple of points, but we can take them at the end. I think it's probably easier. So,
yeah, sure.
Very good. Thank you.
Pritamba?
Hare Krishna, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. Hare Krishna.
Can you give me control of the screen?
Yes, you have it.
Do I?
Yes.
You just have to click share, I think.
Yes, that's correct.
Can you see something?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Good, good, good. How do I get this big again?
You can do, oh, I'm not sure. Slideshow, it says slideshow.
Yeah, go to slideshow, and there should be an option to say from beginning.
Yes.
I'm seeing, I feel so embarrassed. I think it's the pressure. I'll blame it on the pressure. Hare Krishna, everyone. All glories to Guru Maharaj and all glories to Srila Prabhupada. May the Supreme Lord, Krishna and Shri Radha Rani, bless me, so I may explain chapter 2 to you devotees here. Before I start, I realized something very interesting yesterday, and I'd like to share this with you before going on to chapter 2. Basically, what had happened was the 5 Pandavas were not given back their kingdom, which was one was part of Hastinapur, and Kandav Pradesh, I think, was the name of the kingdom, and Duryodhana was refusing to return it. And so what happened was Krishna went to the assembly in Hastinapur, where Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana, and everyone on behalf of his pure devotees, Yudhishthira Maharaj, and asked, look, the Pandavas are ready to accept 5 villages, and we can prevent this war. This is a very, very important point, because what it shows is the mentality of those who are demonic, those who are possessed by lust, anger, and greed, those who are too egocentric, full of false ego and pride. They're just not ready to budge. They're not ready to compromise. And here's the Supreme Lord asking, Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra and the assembly of kings and princes out there, look, just give 5 villages. To which Duryodhana replied, no, I'm not going to even give you, that bit of land where a little needle can fit in. So, kind of just get lost. We're not interested in you. And the reason I've brought this story up, this particular pastime, is because that's one of the reasons why this war took place. That was the catalyst, and hence we've got the Bhagavad Gita. Not only that, but I've realized that throughout the whole world, this is the same story that is happening now. In Armenia and Azerbaijan, there's a war going on, and it's all based on land. There's a war between China and Bharat, where China is encroaching on Bharat's territory and land. And also there's wars or potential wars between China and Taiwan, because China is saying Taiwan belongs to me. China is saying the sea belongs to me, etc. And you see a lot of, a lot of proprietorship. Everybody wants everybody else's land, and they're all fighting for resources. And in the end of the day, we all know where that leads. Unfortunately, it leads to war. However, this war that happened, the Mahabharata war, is a transcendental war, because Supreme Personality of Godhead's lotus feet were there. And not only that, this beautiful scripture, 700 verses, was revealed to us lot, so we can discuss as devotees, because Krishna does say that my pure devotees or my devotees like to talk about me and converse about me, and that's what we are doing here. So Prabhuji very beautifully explained chapter 1, and chapter 1 is the foundation. It gets everything set up. Basically it's really interesting, because even in business and when you're doing projects at school, there's always here's the problem, what is the solution? The teacher will give you a problem, whether it's a maths question or whether it's a scientific problem, and then you have to work out what the solution is. So chapter 1 was basically, we've got a problem, how are we going to solve it? And then Krishna is now going to try to, he does it, to not try, he's done it, to solve what the problem is. And chapter 1 ended in Arjun's grief, and it kind of moves on into chapter 2. But as chapter 2 finishes and we go through the other chapter, the grief is taken away, the weakness is taken away, and now the full potential of Arjun's character is revealed. As Sanjana does say in chapter 18, wherever there's Krishna and wherever there's Arjun, there's going to be victory, determination, steadfastness, etc. So chapter 2 is called Sankhya Yoga. It's the yoga of analytical knowledge. Sankhya is derived from the word in Sanskrit meaning to count. And basically it is the philosophy or the yoga which creates a difference or helps to explain the difference between matter and spirit. Okay, my spirit is spelt wrong, but never mind. Spirit, sorry, apologies, I'll sort that. And so between Purusha and Prakriti, we all know that Krishna is Adi Purusham, Govindam Adi Purusham, the supreme personality of God, the supreme being, and Prakriti is seen as feminine. So when, the Supreme Lord glances out into the universe, we see this fantastic array of, galaxies, planets, etc. So as we move into chapter 2, Arjun is still a little doubtful, and he starts to surrender. He realizes that, I'm not going to be able to sort this out. So he surrenders on to Krishna, and he tries to justify his reasons for not fighting, his relatives and all the terrible things that can happen, how women, etc. Before we move into Karam Yoga, Buddhi Yoga, I just want to explain a little bit about the body, because this is the field where the activities are all happening. This is where false ego, anger, lust, greed, and everything is manifest in. What Krishna says in chapter 2 about the body is that it's not eternal. It's got no real actual power compared to the soul. The soul and the super soul are the real eternal spiritual entities. The body is sure to come to an end. It was created, it's maintained, and it's going to be annihilated. Krishna also says about the body that knowing that the soul is eternal, we shouldn't really grieve for the body, because it kind of shows that we don't fully understand things as they are. You may wonder, how is the body? Are we really spirit souls? The way to look at that is just look at your old photographs when you were a little baby. That was a different body to what you've got now. And as you go from student life to marriage life to retirement life to sannyas and towards your last days, you'll notice your body is changing. And scientists have actually said that within 7 years, your whole body's molecules and water and carbon is all replaced. So we'll go on to the next slide. Just give me 1 second. Here we are. Krishna talks about Gyan Yoga as well. And within the Gyan Yoga, Krishna talks about the soul. We were just discussing that, the soul is eternal and it moves through the body. And here's a lovely picture that demonstrates that. So we know that there's two things that are eternal. The soul is eternal and the supreme being is eternal. And the soul goes through a journey, not through this current body, from baby to young boy to teenager to man, etc. It actually goes through species of life. It can enter into another human life. It can go down if it hasn't focused on spirituality and Krishna consciousness, the Supreme Lord, or it can go up. And our target is to go up. The whole purpose of this conference and Zoom session is so that we can all, inspire each other and move forward. So, the great thing about the soul is you can't break it. I think that's brilliant. We're going to be, we're forever. I can remember my Guru Maharaj saying once a little child asked my Guru Maharaj and said, is there life after death? And Guru Maharaj replied with such a fantastic answer. Guru Maharaj said, there is forever life. And he didn't even use the word death. He said, there is forever life. And I found that really, exciting. And, because that's what the Atma is. It's forever life. Death can't touch it. And hence that moves on to its invisible qualities, is unchangeable. As I've already said, that the soul never dies. So there's no need to be too sad. There's always a little bit of sadness when somebody leaves, whether it's a pet or whether it's a family member. But we should always remember that the soul, because the soul has left the body, all that is left now are the 5 great elements. You know, the soul's gone on, it's moved on with its subtle body. Krishna also explains that people, when they discuss it, they describe the soul as amazing. And no matter how much you try to quantify it, how much you try to analyze it or explain what it is, you just end up going round and round in circles. And that's because of the nature of the soul. It's, you know, it is spiritual, and we're in a material world. And because we're in a material world, we can't see that which is spiritual. Krishna also explains that the soul cannot be burnt by fire, nor moistened by the wind, no dried, not cut even by a weapon. So even if you know, somebody got an axe and killed any type of body, the soul just moves on. You can't even dilute it. You know, like you get orange and you put water in it and it gets diluted. The soul, forget it. It can't be diluted. It's eternal. And this is all Gyan Yoga. Remember I explained about Sankhya Yoga, what it's all about? It's about the differentiation between matter and spirit. So here's the spirit side of it regarding to the Atman. Krishna then talks about Karam, which is basically rituals and ceremonies and actions that people perform basically to get material gains. You know, I want a wife, I want a car, I want money, etc. So this forms under the Karam Kanda consciousness, and it is very egocentric. It's all based around the false ego that I am the body, I am, you know, eternal within, you know, the body, you know, and but this is not what Krishna consciousness is about. Krishna moves on forward and starts to discuss Karam Yoga. You know, in the practice of Karam Yoga, you do not involve your ego, because only then can you do an action or perform something without attachment and desire. So I've shown a photograph of Gandhi here, because what Gandhi had tried to do was prove and use the Bhagavad Gita, which he used to read every day. And he said that the best way to find yourself is lose yourself to the service of others. Although I would say to the service of others under Krishna consciousness, that really, you know, wraps everything up. So what is Karam Yoga? Karam Yoga is basically when you perform actions in equilibrium, treat happiness and distress alike. You don't get too involved in loss or gain, victory or defeat. You take full responsibility of your actions. You perform your duties that need to, but you never look at the results. You're not too focused on the results. And to be honest, in one sense, the actual action itself is the result. You know, it's just a question of time when the actual results do come. But if you start seeing that the actual action is the result, you know, it's a nice way of looking at it. That's the way I see it. So whenever I do my chanting, I never focus too much on the results in the sense of, oh, am I going to get to Krishna? Is this ever going to work? Etc. I just focus just on the chanting. And another nice thing that happens is I get totally focused in the chanting. Whereas if I'm focusing on, oh, can I get there or can I not get there? You know, is Krishna happy? You know, you'll never get, you know, you'll just be confused and you won't progress. So work without the desire for the rewards is called yoga of the intellect, which is now Buddhi Yoga. So we now moved into Buddhi Yoga, which is Krishna consciousness. It's the platform of actual desirelessness, because you are now performing all your actions as a sacrifice to Krishna. The process of Bhakti Yoga is to unite the mind with Krishna consciousness through the use of Buddhi. We may remember, well, we haven't discussed it today, but I can quickly explain it. Krishna says that superior to matter is the body, superior to the body is the senses, superior to the senses is the mind, and superior to the mind is the intellect. So we can see where this buddhi yoga actually sits. It's really kind of transcended on the bodily and gone straight into the intellect, which is now one step away from the soul. And through the power of buddhi, we can determine what to do and what not to do, the power of discretion, and we can get a better understanding of what actually is going on. So you can see that, you know, Sankhya Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Buddhi Yoga, they're really good tools to use in your spiritual practices. And as I've already explained, activities of Bhakti Yoga are free from false ego and the sense of proprietorship, where we disregard our selfish desires and sense object cravings and focus all our senses and our body, mind, and intellect in the service of Shri Krishna, Radha Krishna. And we also do this with detachment from the fruits of the work, which we have already discussed. And also totally being fixed in our relationship, fixed in the concept of the self, that we are spirit souls and we are eternal servants of the Supreme Lord. When Bhakti Yoga gets totally spiritualized and totally effective, it leads on to Nishkam Karma Yoga, which is when you perform your actions without desire. And another very important point to notice, Krishna says to keep abominable actions far distance. You know, this is a very important point. I just want to put some emphasis on here. People do focus that their Bhakti Yoga is brilliant, it's the best yoga possible, and this is all true. However, if you are performing abominable actions, you're going to muddy the waters, you're going to muddy your spiritual path, and your destination you're going to reach much, much later. So yes, Bhakti Yoga is absolutely brilliant because now you're offering everything as a sacrifice to Vishnu. But it's very important to understand Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga, where you use your Jnana and you use your buddhi, where you don't perform these kind of actions that will hamper your spiritual activity. Krishna then further goes on into the Bhagavad Gita, in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 2, where he talks about people who can, you actually go mad. It's like a cycle where you'll keep thinking about the same things again and again and again, and it'll just drive you mad. So in this diagram, I've tried to show, like, you know, the mind, it'll start thinking about the objects of the senses. Oh, I like cars, I like toys, I like ice cream or whatever. And it goes a bit crazy and it wants too much. And as a result, it leads to attachment, which further increases the desire. And then anger is created if you don't get what you desire. You might have seen in Sainsbury's or something, a little child crying over sweets, or you know, or a toy that his mother didn't buy him, and he's getting angry. This is all to do with this kind of process. A child behaving like that is fine, but for an adult to behave in the same way, you know, it's not very mature. So here you can see that the anger messes up or clouds the intellect. And this is, remember, the intellect is the instrument that's going to help you, you know, to get out of the material world through devotional service. So we don't want to cloud that judgment. This leads to a bewilderment of memory. So what happens is the mind just goes into like a loop, you know, it doesn't know what to do. And as a result, Krishna calls this, you know, the destruction of the intellect, because of the purpose of the intellect is to help you, to use all the information it's already gathered in the past and to use that information to make a decision. But if you can't make a decision, or you're making the wrong decisions, you know, it's leading the mind to further complex fall down situations, and then it becomes useless, and hence you go into this loop, and you know, you don't progress. But we want to progress, and so we yes, as a result of that cycle of madness, you know, Krishna also explains throughout the Bhagavad Gita chapter 2 that, you know, miserly men, or people who are going totally crazy. Another word he uses is mithyachari, hypocrites. You know, they perform actions, they do sinful actions, they lose social status, reputation, They don't have any understanding of spirituality. They mess up their devotional service. Well, they probably don't even get to the platform of devotional service. They're attached to the flowery words of the Vedas. Remember, we talk about they like to do sacrifices so they can attain, materialistic desires to be fulfilled. They also enjoy the fruits of their action. And as a result, they are kind of undisciplined people, and who have not controlled their mind, their senses, and have no resolute intellect. So their buddhi yoga is now rendered useless. And as a result, there's no contemplation of this for the Supreme Lord. However, there are personalities who come into this material world who have transcended from attachment, fear, and anger, and who are helping us and raising our consciousness as well. And one of them we should all know by now is Srila Prabhupada. And Krishna does say, and I'll recite this verse, but one who controls the mind and is free from attachment and aversion, even while using the objects of the senses, attains the grace of God. And what is Srila Prabhupada doing here? He is using his senses and his body in the worship of Shri Krishna and Balaram. And, this is absolutely brilliant. So that's all we have to do, is engage our instruments, the mind, the body, and intellect, in the service of the Supreme Lord. So what is the result when, can you all see the screen? Oh, great. So what is the result if we do practice Garam Yoga, Nishkam Yoga, and Buddhi Yoga, and Garam Yoga, and Gyan Yoga, is we will attain prasad, the mercy of the Supreme Lord. By obtaining the mercy, which is the prasad, it will help us control our mind, free us from attachment and aversion, and we can carry on using our senses, because so long as we've got the body, we've got no choice but to use our senses in the service of the Supreme Lord. And Krishna ends this, and this is what I really love about, the Bhagavad Gita and Krishna. Krishna always, for all the chapters, he explains it, and then right at the end, he'll come up with, it's like a positive spin on it. And it's like, hey, don't worry about it. Check it out. This is what's going to happen. And in the last verse, Krishna goes, this is the way of the spiritually and godly life, after attaining which a man is not bewildered, being situated so, even at the hour of death, one can enter into the kingdom of God. So never mind the prasad you're going to get here while alive by practicing devotional service. If one can just imagine, what is the prasad we will receive on the day where the gates of the spiritual world are open and we are walking in, and our spiritual master is waiting for us there with his hands. Remember, because before you can see Radha Shri Krishna and Radha Krishna Chandra Bhagwan, you'll have to go to your spiritual master first. This is what I've heard. And it's the spiritual master who takes you towards, afterwards, the Supreme Lord. I always wonder, and I think to myself, I wonder what the grass will feel like. I wonder what the smell is going to be like. And there's going to be massive chanting going on with devotees dancing. I wish to end it here, that, if we practice this Bhagavad Gita, properly, and remember, chapter 2 is the summary of the Bhagavad Gita, which ends at sannyas, which ends at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord in Vaikuntha. We should all encourage each other and, journey together towards the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna. If I've made any mistakes, apologies. Jai Shri Radha Krishna Chandra Bhagwan. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj. Jai Shri Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, really good, Prabhupada. I really love the way that you broke down this chapter. Really enjoyed it, and how systematically you went through the chapter as well. Really, really nice, and such good points, especially at the end. Like a really nice looking forward personal sharing as well. And you definitely brought the numbers, because I've just seen the number of our participants just go up and up the whole time you've been presenting. So I'm taking chapter 3. Just a quick disclaimer to all the kids here, they might recognize some of the slides that I'm using, because I'm using a lot of them from the kids class that we did last week. But I'm just going to take a small snippet of that because that was designed for an hour class, and we're just focusing a little bit more on one of the aspects of that chapter. So I'll just share my screen. So Hare Krishna. Just thought I'd begin first of all with an overview, just in case people are not familiar with this chapter, they can have an understanding of what it's like as a whole. So Arjuna continues his inquiries on our behalf, and he wants to understand a little bit more about the practical implications of karma yoga. How do we put this into practice a bit more? Because as Patamba mentioned, that chapter 2 is a summary. And these chapters following now allow us to get a real in-depth understanding of each aspect that is brought up in chapter 3, so we can be left in no doubt. So here we learn a little bit more about karma yoga, and karma is a really complicated thing to understand, and that's what we're going to be looking at today. So Arjuna asks more of these questions, and he wants to understand, part of the reason he wants to understand is, why is the action that I have to take right now fighting? Patamba had mentioned a lot about the importance of buddhi and knowledge, and Arjuna picks up on that, and he says, why can't I do that and take some of that on? And Krishna emphasizes a little bit more about how action works and how we should be acting. And that if we act without selfish motives, with God in mind, and also according to our nature, which we look at in a little bit more detail, we can be liberated from the law of karma and attain transcendental knowledge of the self and the supreme. Because we all have to engage in some activity. For the most part, especially today, the world is very busy and we're all expected to act in some way or another. But the way that we act, both on a material and a spiritual level, can make a big impact, and particularly on a spiritual level, we learn about how we can act in a way that will take us closer to Krishna, and how we might act that might not take us to that closeness. And then further, Krishna sort of emphasizes, what do we do after we've understood the way that we should be acting and we've got into the routine of acting in these practices of karma or bhakti yoga. And Krishna emphasizes that we should be setting an example to others and working for others. So that quote again, that Gandhi quote that Pratamba put about putting ourselves in service of others, this comes as a part of that, setting a good example. And then Arjuna concludes the chapter asking about why we commit sin when perhaps we should know better, and Krishna compassionately answers him. And we had a lot of fun with this last time when I was doing this with the kids, because we played out a very, very familiar scenario of wanting some toy in the shop or something like that. But today we're going to be focusing mainly on karma and acting within your nature. So what is it that Krishna says about our natures and the way that we act? Well, Krishna emphasizes that there are two main paths to self-realization. So in verse 3 he says, some are inclined to understand it by empirical philosophical speculation and others by devotional service. And actually that in this Kali Yuga, it's mainly recommended that we do go down this devotional service route. For one reason, there is it doesn't require a massive shift in mindset because we're always acting anyway. It shifts into just having a more the mindset of the servant and the mindset of someone who wants to conduct that devotional service. Whereas a lot of the requirements in terms of going through down this empirical path, which has been tried and tested, the knowledge path, we can't do that in the same way because we're lacking a lot of the things that were had in the previous ages, the spirituality and the holiness as well. But of course, the two things go very much side by side. The knowledge does fortify our devotional service. But Krishna says most of us will take the path of action because this is within our nature. And this is certainly within Arjuna's nature as well. As a Kshatriya, he is bound to protect his kingdom. And Krishna emphasizes this a lot throughout the Mahabharata, that when there's a holy war going on, a war between righteousness and unrighteousness, the only righteous place to be is that battleground, because you should be fighting to establish that dharma and to vanquish adharma. And especially if your nature is a warrior, that is the most the best thing that you could do. And Krishna emphasizes, if we go against our inherent nature, we're just pretending. At the end of the day, we're not really achieving that much, because we're not doing it genuinely, and we're not doing it according to what we want. And if it's not genuine, sincere service, then there is no real gain, because Krishna knows exactly what the real desires are in our hearts. And so, we might say, well, on the outside, it looks like we're doing all this. No one else can tell. Like, Krishna can always tell. So we shouldn't think that we can hide from him. And the more practical example that I gave from that is, many people, they say, oh, my New Year's resolution is I'm going to the gym. Okay, day 1, they might go to the gym. Day 2, maybe they went to the gym. Day 3, they decided, okay, I went to the cafe and I just had a coffee with my friends. But technically, I was at the gym. It's not like I didn't go. But, we all know here that they're probably just pretending. That's not really what they set out to do. And Krishna emphasizes that if we try and go against our inherent nature, that's what ends up happening to us as well. We kind of end up doing something that we never even set out to do and get detracted from the real aim. And that's something that we definitely don't want to do. And I think the key message here is, Krishna really emphasizes that he would rather see what we can do within our capacity and then build on that. And says in verse 7, if a sincere person tries to control the active senses by the mind and begins karma yoga in Krishna consciousness, he is far superior. So, we shouldn't think that Krishna is expecting us to sort of be perfect and go down this route that is against our nature. We should always be trying to conduct devotional service in whatever way our nature allows us to do that to the fullest extent, rather than trying to pretend to be something that we're not. So the next slide, a little bit more about what karma is. So what is karma? Well, it's this idea of the law of action and reaction. On the surface level, this fact that for good action, you will be rewarded in this material world. So perhaps if you did a good action in a previous life, you end up here being rewarded. Or if you did a good action in this life, you might be rewarded in the future. And similarly, if you do a bad action, you also will have to pay the consequences for that, whether that be in this life or the next life. But as we can see, both of those actions are liberating us to this cycle of birth and death. Because so long as we have karma, whether that's karma that needs to be rewarded or karma that is bad karma, we will have to be engaging in this cycle of birth and death so we can get our dues back. And so in this chapter, Krishna tries to explain that this is something that is impeding our progress into getting into the spiritual world. A lot of the time, sometimes when we do good things, there's this underlying sense of getting personal gain. And certainly when we do bad things, a lot of the time, it seems to be for personal gain. And even if we have good karma, it's still a form of bondage. And the analogy here is sort of, even if you're wearing a golden chain as pretty as it looks, you're still chained. You might be living in the biggest mansion on earth. At the end of the day, are you in the spiritual world where there is that true enjoyment, eternal enjoyment? No, it's not the same. So Krishna says, of course, the good actions is where we need to be at, but how do we take that even further? How do we bring that onto the spiritual platform and into knowledge? Well, it's where it's our motivations, and a big thing of Krishna consciousness is this mindset, our motivations. So simply you continue doing the good actions that you're practicing, but these actions, the intentions, the motivations should be to please God. And it should not be understood that I am doing this as a result of my money, this person has had this. As a result of my donation, this person has had that. Because you can hear the I there is the ego. You can feel yourself praising yourself. But actually that I am an instrument in this goodness. So I'm serving God and I'm his instrument in providing this action. There is no I in that. And the verse taken as evidence for why this can be so valuable is work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed, otherwise work causes bondage in this material world. And a big emphasis in chapter 3 as well is on the fact that sacrifice is something that we need to do in order to attain Krishna again. It is a form of yoga or connection to God, and sacrifice is prescribed as by the Vedas as a form of returning to God as well. So finally, I just wanted to focus a little bit more on setting a good example and what Krishna says about what we do once we've achieved self-realization. So Krishna says, whatever action a great man performs, common men follow, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues, in verse 21. And he emphasizes that even when you've left the material platform, or left the material world, and attained self-realization and spiritual world, you should continue working in this way so that others can understand and follow your example. And in all of your actions, they will see, and how they bring peace and stillness, they will certainly follow you, because your work will be so commendable, and they will see by your characteristics how beneficial it can be to follow your example. And Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita gives the example of himself. As God, you would not expect God to have any obligation to keep and continue working, and yet he chooses to continue his duties, or what he sees as his duties, so that we can follow his path that eventually leads back home. And particularly as well, many people mentioned today Srila Prabhupada, who is not even, he's left now this material world, and yet his influence is stretching so far that we can have this discourse today. So we're still following his example through his lectures and purports and things like that. So that's where I will end my PowerPoint for today. Let me just stop screen sharing. And we just conclude now with any questions. That's across the board. So anyone who's presented today, you can ask them a question about what they said, or just make a comment on what they said.
I really liked all the presentations, really good. And just had a few little points. I liked what Guntis was saying about how no one can understand Krishna, can never understand the limit of Krishna. And that's really interesting, because I think it was yesterday I read it in the Bhagavad, or was it the day before? Maybe it was Friday, that even the Lord himself doesn't know his limit. So how is it possible for anybody to be able to understand the Lord? Even he himself doesn't. And the example was given of how in Dwarka one time the Lord saw himself in the mirror, and he was wondering, who is this most beautiful person? So his qualities, his beauty, strength, etc., is always increasing. He's always dynamic. So I liked your point, and it's reinforced because even Krishna doesn't understand his full glory. He's always increasing. And there was something else you mentioned, how he's everywhere, which he says in the Bhagavad Gita. He describes in chapter 10, in so many places where he is. He can be perceived in this world everywhere. But yet he also says, I'm not in this world. But I'm not also. This is the inconceivable nature of the Lord. This is one of the reasons why our tiny brains won't necessarily be able to understand the Lord. And we shouldn't even worry about trying to understand him. Just try to love him. And your point about Maya being 16 times stronger than us, that's very, very interesting. I hadn't heard that before. So thank you for sharing that, because that sort of gives a good idea to us of what we're sort of against, and what we're looking for shelter from Lord Krishna. So I really appreciate that. Thank you for that. And Pitambar, I like the quote about Mahatma Gandhi, find yourself by losing yourself in service to others. And it reminded me of something which, if somebody offends us, if somebody does something against us, it's possible to forgive them, But it's very difficult to forget what has happened, right? So forgiveness, we can do that. But forgetting is very, so I can't remember which one of the Goswami says, the only way one can forget is by losing oneself in Krishna's service. That's the only way we can forget somebody's wrongdoing, so-called wrongdoing against us. So forgiveness is okay, but forgetting, the only way to do it is by completely losing oneself in service. So that's very, very interesting. I just wanted to share that. So that was it, really. And Sanjana, we grilled you last week on your presentation, so thank you for that presentation. I was just thinking, is anybody else would like to ask? Maybe Sam. Sam, would you like to contribute?
Yes, I've got one question. It's to do with the reason why those who should know better still commit sin.
Hi, yeah. If I take that one, yeah, I had that further in my PowerPoint, which I covered a bit last week. But it's about sort of lust and then leading it to anger. So I take the example of right now, perhaps near Christmas, people want something, and they really want a present. Everyone's getting a present in class, and then they've decided, oh, I really, really want it. So they ask for it, and let's say their parents say no. And they go, oh my God, that's really frustrating. So then lust leads to wrath. They're getting really, really angry. Oh my God, my parents don't understand me. They just don't understand how angry I am. I'm so upset. I'm really jealous. So envy comes in. They start looking, oh, look, he got exactly what I wanted to do. Exactly what I wanted. And then you become really frustrated. Perhaps you say something rude to your parents, and then that's, you've committed that sin. And that's just one example, but it always seems to stem from wants. So even, let's say, I think one of the really bad sins might be eating meat. Again, that comes from lust, that everybody else in Western society is eating meat, so I think I should be eating it. And you know, I want it because I want my meals to taste good. And then someone tells you, oh no, that's not very good for you, it's not very good for the planet. Oh, well, why are you telling me what to do? So that kind of progression from lust to wrath to then eventual sin takes place regularly, also because we're in a society where we feel like we need to please everyone and we forget about who we're supposed to please, I think.
So even those who should know better, for example, a devotee is not immune from the ravages of Maya.
Well, I'd say like us as devotees who are working towards it, we're not immune, because as Pratamba was saying earlier, there are always tests, and how we face those tests will kind of play out the way that it will. But we can get tangled up in the modes of material nature, because ultimately we're still in this material world. We could fall victim to them in a moment of weakness. But if we repent, then we can still continue down the path that we're on, I think. But I think pure devotees then are lifted out away from that ability to fall down. They become infallible beings. Is that correct?
Yes,
Absolutely. You've answered the question. Thank you so much. Thank you.
and even if a devotee falls down and as Krishna says, can't remember now exactly where that text is. Even if
I think it's in chapter 13.
Is that the one about even if the devotee performs the most abominable action?
That's right. I think it's in chapter 13.
That's all right. But anyway, he basically says that because that devotee is situated properly, he will soon become righteous. And then he tells Arjuna, declare it boldly that my devotee never fails. So, Sam, that was a really nice question and good answer, Sanjana.
Hare Krishna.
Pitamba.
Yes, can I add to that if you don't mind?
Absolutely.
That was brilliant, Sanjana. Thanks. You know, this is all going back to, you know, why knowledge is so important. The Gyan Yog stage, where you can differentiate the Sankhya philosophy between matter and spirit. Later on, Krishna goes into the modes of material nature. Now, if you're behaving in the modes of ignorance all the time, then the chances of you performing an abominable action or making a mistake increase drastically, even in Rajagun, if you were to perform an action. So the whole trick here is, it's a bit like a car. If you're going on the motorway and you don't know anything about cars and your car breaks down, well, good, and you don't have AA cover kind of thing, that's a bit of a tough luck situation. But if you've been studying the Bhagavad Gita, going on to Zoom classes and stuff like that, and you understand, the three modes of material nature, not only will you see other people, oh, here's this particular individual's performed this action in this mode, I'm performing this action in this particular mode. I mean, to be honest, the three modes of material nature is a giveaway, like anything, because Krishna explains it's not only austerity, penance, charity, food, so many things are discussed that one acts, even the type of movies you watch, the type of, clothes you wear. Is absolutely incredible when you look at it in the grand scheme of things in your life, how much these three modes of material nature play in your life. And then together with all the other spiritual knowledge of Bhakti Yoga, Gyan Yoga, and the Stang Yoga, they're all like backups for Bhakti Yoga. You're doing your Bhakti Yoga, but you've got knowledge of everything else, and it can propel you to higher stages. And the most important thing to remember is what Krishna talks about, the permanence and impermanence, that, for the body, it's dissolution. So if we know that the body is going to be is dissolution, all actions and all desires and all sense gratifications have a beginning, middle, and end. And you only need to think, oh, how many times have I fulfilled this particular desire, and has it really fulfilled me? And in that sense, start chanting. And once the effects of the chanting and your meditation I experienced myself, whoa, this is brilliant. When I've been doing my chanting, I've had certain experiences and I thought, wow, there's nothing better than this. And within myself, I had, this feeling that just carry on, you're on the right track, just carry on. So, this is why, I would say knowledge is very important, and also association with devotees. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Brilliant answer. I think there's a quote where Krishna basically, I think, says that something like, arm yourself, destroy ignorance with the arms of knowledge. I don't know if that's the exact quote, but he does certainly mention something like that, and I think he picked up on that so well.
Can I kindly also add something? Is it all right?
Absolutely, Guntis.
Okay, thank you so much. That what obvious to us is that it's all about attachment to certain mode or certain vibration. Yes, and the only way forward is to transcend that vibration, replacing it with more superior vibration. Yes, it's like the same way as eating food. If we are we are attached to eating street food, like this fast food for a long period of time, then for us that seems as the most best or tastiest food. But then if we kind of someone is offering us something different, like some prasadam, or let's even not go to prasad, because this is already the end, the perfection of food. But if even someone offers us some more qualitative food cooked at home from scratch, some vegetarian thing, and then like if it's prepared in a nice way, then we might eat it, and we might discover that actually this food is far more better than the food I was eating before. And then to that person, then he might change his way of eating the food that he been eating before. And then if that person is in return offered prasadam afterwards, then that person might know, like, this is even far better than I was eating before. So So it always have to be replaced. Why we are doing abominable things is because inside in our subconscious, because all our karma is placed in our subconscious mind. Yes, so there is a conscious part, or the top of the iceberg, and then there is the subconscious mind, or the bottom of the iceberg, which is 90%. And those 90% are creating different situations in our life, or manifesting or repeating lessons that we haven't mastered before. So the same lesson which we haven't passed before will repeat again. As the cycle moves on, it's gonna again repeat until we pass certain lessons. So that's why this attachment to the lower vibrations are all stored in our subconscious mind, and that will be motivating, like kind of, how you say, it's still projecting whether we are living in more in the mode of ignorance, or we are more than, if we rise that vibration, we will be more in passion. Yes, then we become more attached to operating with the mode of passion. And then when we are purifying ourselves more and more and more, and we experience the mode of goodness, then we can become attached to the mode of goodness. And then by being attached in the mode of goodness, really living, experiencing it, and mode of goodness predominantly will depend of ability to be completely present. Okay, so person who will be in the mode of goodness, person like that generally will be very much here and now, very present in the moment, living in the moment, and in the moment we can notice so many things. And when we are in the moment, if we see, okay, like it's here something doesn't work, then we are dealing it right here, right now. We are not leaving it to the later. And if we see there some things require our attention, then we give our attention there. So that will generally be an experience of living in the present moment. And then, while being in the present moment, when it's being start to give into Krishna, then it becomes pure goodness, or bhakti yoga. And as devotees before was explaining, bhakti yoga is it's a life experience. In bhakti yoga, the mind itself, like all the life goes through heart. Okay, pretty much like that. It's a strong feeling, so we speak with the feeling, we listen with that feeling, we experience with that feeling. So it's all comes from heart. The mind is completely peaceful, completely tranquil, because mind becomes completely peaceful and tranquil on the level of goodness. Mind is relaxed. Yes, its mind regains its original position in the mode of goodness, because from all material elements, mind is the only one which is originally in goodness. Yes, intellect is in passion, so mind is in goodness, but but for us it seems completely different. The mind is always disturbed or stressed or anxious, etc., etc. But in fact, its original position is being in the goodness. So when mind is completely peaceful, we start to experience with our heart, because our attention at that moment will be on our heart, or in the place where our heart is sitting. And in that way we will be able to experience life for what it is. And it can be only experienced in the present moment. Because if our mind is somewhere in the future or somewhere in the past, we won't be able to feel the moment, because the mind is taking a lot of our attention. The focus is all here, so much energy goes to the thinking process. But when the mind is completely relaxed, we actually experience right here and right now. And if we are looking at the spiritual world, yes, in spiritual world there is only eternal now, because the whole meaning of eternity is about present moment. The eternity doesn't happen after 1 year, it's eternal, or 1 year ago it was eternal and now it's something different. No, it's eternal now. It is the experience or the platform on which soul is vibrating. And in spiritual world, everything is happening in eternal now, in that eternal time frame of the soul, which is eternal here and now. So therefore, it's all happening from the attachments, and attachments are stored in our subconscious mind, and then the chanting will be slowly purifying our subconscious mind, and therefore, as more that information stored in our subconscious mind or in our hard drive, as more it is cleansed out, as more we are rising up the levels of the modes until we reach a goodness, and then by engaging in the service to Krishna, it's called Bhakti Yoga or pure goodness. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for sharing that. That was very good, Kuntis. And of course, the mind, ultimately, when we gain the spiritual world, which hopefully at some point that will happen, the mind is not there anymore, because mind is only with us in the material world, mind, intelligence, and then the real ego takes over in the spiritual world. So this mind stays with us life after life, gets transformed every time we change bodies. So we need to be very mindful that we try to get to this level of pure goodness as fast as we can. And luckily, we've got good association. As Pitamba says, Zoom. Oh, Krishna. I suppose if anybody else would like to make a comment before we finish, I suppose. Or any questions? Okay. So Sanjana, you're welcome to wrap up. You're muted, huh? You can't unmute. On behalf of Sanjana, I'd like to say thank you to everybody. Guntis especially, Amber especially, and Sanjana herself. Very, very nice presentations. This was one of our very good sessions, because with good participation, and let's hope we continue in the same vein. In 2 weeks' time, we hope to continue. So thank you so much. Huh? Thank you, Guntis. Really appreciate your time. Huh? Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Pitamba. Thank you, Rita. Oh, Madhusun Babu. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Sam. Thanks so much. And yesterday was okay, Sam?